Hello, hello, hello. We have returned for even more professional wrestling depravity. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this guy has kind of stumped me. He just has one of the weirdest lives I've ever researched. The he in question is Ludvig Borga. And let me tell you, Ludvig Borga has one of the most strange lives ever. Before we get started, I just want to put this out there. No, I'm not politically affiliated. No, I don't care about your political opinions. And no, I'm not expressing my own political opinions. The only opinions that will be expressed throughout this entire video are those that are formed via the usage of common sense. Now that I got my feather ruffling comment out of the way, let's go ahead and get into how we like to start these videos off by taking a look at what people have to say about them on their cage match page. Also, for further reference, he also goes by Tony Alme, which is his real name. I also completely butchered that pronunciation, but I also just don't care. Sloppy Sammy wrote, probably the worst wrestler that Brad Renigan's ever trained. If Brad could not turn this guy into a passable wrestler, that shows how truly awful this dude was. Just a big lump of muscle who was only able to muster the most very basic. No charisma to speak of, couldn't cut promos, and never really had the presence of a big tough monster heel. The only reason people remember this dude is because of WrestleCrap and his terrible run as Ludvig Borga in the WWF. Very boring, terrible wrestler. Quite the start, but let's see what Nolan Green thinks of the guy. I can't believe this guy's score is this high. The guy had a tattoo because he was a terrible wrestler that never had a good match. They tried to make him a big foreign heel and flopped horribly because he sucked. They were trying to make him a big threat for Lex Luger, another terrible wrestler who I personally despise, but that never went anywhere. Then there's all the stuff he's done outside of wrestling, and he sucks there too. Just a terrible human being. It's a good thing he wasn't in WWE for long at all. So, Sloppy Sammy and Nolan Green, they don't like Ludvig Borga. But we do potentially have a saving grace here, as Jedi Saiyan Master 1203 gives his take on Ludvig Borga. This dude had a tattoo. That's the only thing I can remember from Ludvig, because this guy was boring as a wrestler. No matter where he's been, he's always forged a mediocre career who had forgettable and boring matches. Very likely that he has been forgotten by the majority of people who've seen his work. We'll even throw the opinion of ratings machine in here as well. Tony Alme was absolutely terrible. He got a push in New Japan because of his look, but it didn't last too long because Alme's work was of such a low standard that the fans rejected his push. His WWE run was a major flop. The one-dimensional gimmick didn't help, but his interviews were abysmal. And if you go back and watch his squash matches, you'll see that they were all laid out in exactly the same way. He was so bad that he couldn't even change up his squash match to even the smallest degree. Well, that's quite the introduction to the guy, I'd say. I'd say they all described him to the best of their abilities and probably better than I could. I'm making this video as sort of a precursor to the Dark Side of the Ring episode that's going to be on Ludvig. That's a little disclaimer to everybody watching in the future after that episode's already been dropped. This is going to be a lot less informative than that episode would be, because obviously I'm not going to have all the things that come to light in that episode. I only know the current February 6, 2025 facts at 1:16 a.m. What am I doing to myself? But anyways, as discussed by the guys in the cage match comments, this guy's a or for the YouTube friendly version, this guy believes in short mustaches ideology from Austria and Germany. To be more specific, he was one of the more important people to the True Finns political ideology. This is a far-right Finnish political party. He was one of the group's figureheads and even held a position of power in Finnish parliament. He won a spot in parliament following the 2003 parliamentary elections. This idiot just couldn't save himself from any form of controversy, gang. He almost immediately, not even a year in, just threw out a homophobic comment at the Finnish president. He referred to the Finnish president, I'm not even going to try to say her name, but he referred to her as a lesbian. First off, there's really nothing wrong with that as long as you're not hurting anyone. But second off, why is it any of your business? And third off, Dude, you're in a position of power. Why are you saying something like that? His PR team must have been like S tier, like top tier, greatest of all time, because he was also elected to the city council of Helsinki during the 2004 municipal elections. I'm saying a lot of big boy words right now, and I'm not too sure if I'm like saying them correctly or not, so I'm gonna go with it. If I'm saying them wrong, I apologize. Going away from his political career for a second, I just looked in his personal life. This dude's a straight up player. So what I'm getting at here is he got married to this American girl, Adriana Estrada, and then through that got a green card and then straight up just divorced her. That's insane. Terrible person, but I see the vision. I respect it, and I respect the pimping. Y'all know how it is. Y'all know how it is around here. They say it's better to be pissed off than to be pissed on, but I'm not gonna lie, I was both whenever I watched any of his matches. I'm kind of all over the place right now, but I'm not gonna lie, he is one of the worst professional wrestlers I've ever watched, and that's no exaggeration. Like, he's awful. He consistently walks around the ring like he's got a stick up his rear end and just can't get it out. I swear to God, watching a Ludvig Borga match has to be like the cure to insomnia, bro. I don't even need melatonin anymore. I still see the hat, man, but I don't even need melatonin anymore. For someone that had so many stints with so many different companies, he sure wasn't in the business for that long. He wasn't even in the business for 10 years. How did this guy end Tatanka's winning streak? What was the thought process? Like, I swear to God, this dude just did so many different things, but also did a whole lot of nothing. As I currently just found out, apparently, older, like, Finnish celebrities and cult heroes and whatever, they would always be like jack of all trades, basically, which explains why this dude did literally everything. Like, he did anything you could ever want to do in a lifetime, which I guess is part of the reason why it's such a shame, why he's like, how he's such a terrible person, because he did all this cool stuff, but everybody's just gonna remember him as this horrible. Like, seriously, let me just read this off to you. Tony Christian Alme was a Finnish politician, athlete, author, actor, and singer. He did so many things. I see that he's a singer, and I am personally a huge music geek, so I decided that I was going to listen to his music, and I'm not gonna lie, it's complete and utter just garbage. It sucks. It's awful. it's really bad. Yo, what am I listening to? Cause what is he saying, the N-word? I really wish I could understand what he was saying. I really do. Bro, it sounds like he's saying the N-word like 30 times over. What you just heard was my live reaction to the album when I listened to it like a couple hours ago. I was gonna give it like a whole, like section of the video, but I really I there was not enough like content in there to give it its own section. Like, when I say his music is really bad, it's not even a language barrier, because there's Spanish music I like and there's music from other like countries that I like. His music just sucks. That's all I can say about it. It really disappoints me, because I really wanted to show you guys my true ball knowledge when it came to music. One of these days, man. One of these days, I swear. Anywho, back to Ludvig Borga. I really wish I could go more in depth with his wrestling career, but there's just nothing to go in depth on. He was extremely forgettable and extremely bland, very boring. Nobody really cared enough. So instead, we're gonna jump even more into his personal life, because he really did have a wacky final few years. I find it really crazy how 7 years after he was elected into parliament, he just all of a sudden decides to up and, off himself. I'm not gonna fuel into any of those weird, like, sketchy forum post boards talking about how, his death was, whatever, conspiracy theory, whatever. I feel like we as a society gotta understand that not every time somebody takes their own life, like, is a sign of the government killing them. He showed multiple signs of mental illness and distress, and it's not really a good idea to give somebody that's already like kind of off the deep end, who also has issues with drinking, it's kind of a bad idea to give them a firearm. Man, looking into it, he really had a problem with drinking, and it was definitely obvious. As someone who likes to just float out all possibilities of somebody having some type of good in them, maybe it was the alcohol that persuaded his viewpoints in the ways that it did. he was just a bad person. I can't even defend the guy. He was just a bad person. On top of just all the pure craziness, as I mentioned, he was also an author and an actor. He wrote countless books. I'm going to assume on his political career, because that's what a lot of them say. Oh boy, I can only imagine what those entail. Look, I don't know how different cultures are, but how does he have so many of these acting roles? He's a far-right extremist and he's very vocal about it. How does he still have these opportunities? Man, it must have been weird sharing a locker room with him, knowing the tattoo he had on his calf. I would feel very uneasy and very unsettled. I would also feel unsettled being around somebody that had so many firearm charges. Jesus Christ. He had more illegal firearms in his possession than a Baby Chief Do It music video. It's like he's trying to show a band in firearm charges. What are we doing? There was definitely a lot of stuff underlying this. There was a lot of problems he had going on in his head. He most definitely had a lot of undiagnosed things that were exploited throughout his career and life. I mean, there's obviously something going on when, he's though that's not a normal thing. The more and more I read on him, the more and more I just feel less bad, because he was a terrible human being. Having things going on mentally doesn't excuse being a complete and utter piece of trash, so I don't feel bad for him in the slightest. That Dark Side of the Ring episode is most definitely gonna cook. I'm thinking what I'm gonna do for this season of Dark Side of the Ring is I might do reviews of each episode. If that's something y'all would be interested in, let me know, because I'd love to do that. I love taking any chance I can get to just put my meaningless opinion out there on the internet. It's my favorite thing to do. But as for Ludvig Borga, I believe that's where I'm gonna leave this video off at. As always, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you enjoy sarcastic guys talking about wrestling on the internet. Join the Discord. We're building a community over there. We watch wrestling together and we just do a bunch of stuff over there. You guys would love it. And yeah, that's gonna be all for me. Y'all stay safe. God bless.